Now, as part of our election coverage, Breakfast has invited the leaders of the 7 main political parties to speak to us. Our final interview this morning is with the Prime Minister and Conservative Party leader, Rishi Sunak.
Mr Sunak joins us now live from Oxfordshire. Good morning to you, Prime Minister.
Good morning, Sally. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Really good, thank you. 2 days to go. The first time we spoke to you during this campaign here on BBC Breakfast, you talked a lot about your plan, about taking bold action. In fact, I think you mentioned those phrases 11 times. And over the last few days, there's been a shift, hasn't there, from talking about your plan to talking about Labour and the danger of what you have called their potential super majority. Why have you stopped talking about you and focused so much on them? Is this the language of defeat now?
No, I'm very much still talking to people about our plan, and our plan is to cut everyone's taxes, to protect their pension, to secure our borders and reduce migration. And at the same time, elections are a choice. They're a choice between different parties, and my point is, if the polls are to believe and Labour win a big majority, they will be unchecked and unaccountable to people, and that will give them licence to put up everyone's taxes and make us a soft touch of migration when it comes to the entire European continent. I don't think that's right. I don't want people to sleepwalk into that, so I'm fighting very hard for every vote, and as I said, I want to continue in this job so I can cut people's taxes, protect their pensions and secure our borders.
Let's go back to 2019. In that election, the Conservatives won by 80 seats. In 1979, Margaret Thatcher won by 70 seats, fairly hefty majorities there. So are you saying that those two results could potentially have been dangerous because at the time the government might have had too much power?
Well, my point to everybody is this is a really important choice about our country's future, about who governs our country for years. And whilst of course I appreciate the frustrations that people have with me, with the party, it's been a difficult few years and we haven't got everything right or made as much progress in every area as we would like. This is a really important vote in a couple of days, and that will have a huge impact on people's lives, and particularly their livelihoods and their financial security. I want to cut people's taxes, as we've now started doing, and Labour would raise them by thousands of pounds. I want to continue bringing down migration, secure our borders. Labour wouldn't do that. They'd make us the soft touch of Europe, have no plan to stop the boats, as anyone who watched your election debate would see. And I want to protect people's pensions, whereas millions of pensioners, in fact all pensioners under a future Labour government, would face paying a retirement tax on their state pension for the first time in our country's history. So these are big consequences for people that I'm urging everyone to think about as we head into the final couple of days of the campaign.
Labour will disagree on those 3 points that you have just made, but you mentioned there's something that I'm fascinated by. You appreciate that people are frustrated with you. How are they frustrated with you? What is it that you have done or that you are doing that you think people are finding frustrating?
Well, it's been a very difficult few years for the country. As you said, we had an election in 2019 which delivered a strong Conservative majority. But the last few years, for a number of reasons which we're all familiar with, whether it was the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, have had a big impact on everyone's lives, on our country. And as I said, we've not made as much progress as a result of those things in all the areas that we would have liked. But this election is about the future, and we have now, I believe, turned a corner, and you can see that most clearly with the economy. That was my #1 task when I got this job, bringing inflation back down from 11% back to normal. The economy's growing again, wages are rising, energy bills falling again this week, and that's why we've been able to start cutting people's taxes. That's the journey we're on, and that's what I want to keep doing, cutting people's taxes at every stage of their lives, whether it's for everyone in work, for people who are self-employed, for young couple buying their first home, and for pensioners with the Triple Lock Plus. And in contrast, Labour are going to raise everyone's taxes by thousands of pounds. They don't have a plan to secure our borders and reduce migration, and they're going to raid pensions, and that's a significant consequence for people. I don't want that to happen, and that's why I'm fighting hard until the last moment of this campaign.
We're going to talk to you about taxes in just a moment, but I just want to tell you something that from the polling analyst, Sir John Curtis, who I am sure you are very familiar with. We asked him about the chance of you winning this election at the end of this week. He said this: there is more chance of lightning striking twice in the same place and a bit more than Rishi Sunak remaining as Prime Minister. Do you accept that?
That's his view. That's not going to stop me from working as hard as I can over these final few days to talk to many people as possible about the choice. And I was up at 4 this morning talking to workers at a distribution facility. I'm here talking to you. I'll be out till the last moment of this campaign because I think it's a really important choice for the country. If we stick with this, we can continue to cut people's taxes. We can continue to bring down migration, a clear plan to stop the boats, protect people's pensions. I think those are really important issues that will have an impact on people. I don't want to see a Labour government come in and raise people's taxes, damage their financial security, make migration even higher than it is. I don't think that's right, and that's why I will continue, as I said, fighting for every vote till the last moment of the campaign.
Since day one, Prime Minister, you've talked about the plan. In this campaign, it's about the plan. Stick with us and we'll deliver on this plan. 6 weeks later, here we are, 2 days out from the general election. Countless head-to-head interviews. You've done interviews up and down the country. Nothing has changed in the polls. So what's clear is either people don't believe that plan or they don't like that plan. Have you got this campaign wrong?
No, actually, everywhere I've been going, people are waking up to the dangers of what a Labour government would mean for them, particularly when it comes to taxes.
I was asking about your individual
has
plan,
shone a spotlight on rightly, and when it comes to the things that we want to do, people can see that we have turned a corner. It has been a difficult few years, but undeniably things are in a better place now than they were. People are starting to feel the benefits of that, and that's why, with confidence, I can say that I will keep cutting people's taxes, giving them that financial security. If I remain as Prime Minister, flights will go to Rwanda. We can build the deterrent that now other European countries also agree is necessary to solve this problem. And in contrast, Labour don't have a plan at all, and you saw that in the 2 head-to-head debates that you mentioned. And when it comes to pensions, again, I'm going to protect people's pensions because I believe in a country where if you work hard all your life, you should have dignity, security in retirement. I don't think it's fair or right that pensioners should face paying a retirement tax on their state pension as they would under a future Labour government. Look, so those are the things that I'm talking to people about. Those are things that resonate with people. They will have an impact on their lives, and that's why I'm keeping on going and talking to as many people as possible in the final couple of days of this campaign.
No, you say things have turned a corner, but the polls have not changed. Since day one of this election campaign, 6 weeks ago, the polls have not changed. And I put it to you again, people don't believe in your plan, do they?
Well, that's not the experience that I'm having when I'm out and about talking to people. The poll
But why don't the polls reflect that, Mr. Sunak?
Well, my job is to focus on the substance, is to explain to people that if I'm fortunate enough to continue as their Prime Minister, what will I do for them? And what I'll do is cut taxes for them at every stage in their lives, building on the economic progress that we've made. I've got a clear plan to stop the boats and make sure we establish a deterrent so that if people come here illegally, they can't stay and they'll be removed, because that's the only way to solve this problem. Those are substantive issues. That's what I'm talking to people about. I work day and night to deliver for people, and actually the conversations I'm having with people aren't about commentary on the campaign. They're about the issues that affect their lives and the difference I want to make to them if I'm able to continue as Prime Minister. And that's the choice for people to consider on Thursday, is they want to have their taxes cut, their pension protected, and our border secure with the Conservatives. And if that doesn't happen and Labour have a blank cheque to do whatever they want, that will mean people's taxes go up and we don't have border security and people's pensions are taxed and raided.
So let's talk about those policies then. And you say that you need more time to deliver. And the reason I asked you about whether people believe in what you're offering is because you laid out 5 priorities, didn't you, last year? And I think if we look at them, they were about inflation, growing the economy, reducing debt, cutting waiting lists, and immigration, stopping the boats. I think you've met one of them, and it's questionable about how much credit the government can claim for halving inflation. And so that's why I wonder about trust and whether people should believe you, because you laid out some really clear 5 priorities, and you've met just one of them.
Well, the first thing, actually, thank you for acknowledging that, Ben. You said I laid out 5 very clear priorities. That in and itself is not something that you get from Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, because I am prepared to set out very clearly what I want to deliver for people and be held accountable for it. And that's the type of leader I am. You couldn't do the same thing for Keir Starmer or the Labour Party when he's on your show, because he doesn't have 5 very clear things that he wanted to achieve. So let's go through them. I said I'd halve inflation. It's more than halved, from 11% to 2%, lower than our major competitors. I said I'd grow the economy. Well, in the first quarter of this year, our economy grew faster than every other major economy, including France, Germany, Italy and America.
It's questionable about which time period we look at there, Prime Minister.
Well, I'm just going through it. As per the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility, they check that we're complying with our debt rules, and we are. In terms of waiting lists, I've been very upfront. We have not made as much progress as I would have liked, but they are now starting to fall, which is positive. And on stopping the boats, in the last 12 months, their numbers coming are down on the year before. But in order to fully solve that problem, I've always been clear, you need to have a deterrent. If people come to our country illegally, they shouldn't get to stay and they should be removed. And that's what our flights to Rwanda will do.
But you call the election before those flights can take off.
If Keir Starmer's Prime Minister, there will be no flights. Illegal migrants will be released onto our streets and will become the soft touch of Europe. Indeed, that's what the migrants in Calais themselves are saying. They are queuing up to come here if Labour wins because they know they won't be sent anywhere else. And he doesn't have an answer to that question. And you saw that very clearly on your own BBC head-to-head debate. So look, that's who I am. I am going to lay out very clearly what I want to do for people and be held accountable for it. I think that's what leadership is about. I don't change my mind. I don't equivocate. I have the courage of my convictions. And given the progress we've made on the economy, I'm highly confident that we will continue to be able to cut people's taxes at every stage in their lives, continue to control and reduce migration. And that is in stark contrast to what an unaccountable Labour government would do, given a blank cheque to raise everyone's taxes and not do anything about migration.
What, Prime Minister, has been your best moment in the job, in the time that you've had it up until this point? What's the moment that you will remember?
Well, it's an enormous privilege to do this job, and actually one of the things I've said many times before is one of the most inspiring things about doing this job is meeting people who themselves have suffered some tragedy and in spite of that decide to campaign to make positive change for everyone else, so that same thing doesn't happen to others. I always find that incredible, because I think if something like that had happened to me, you think, gosh, you know, how would you deal with it? But these people not just deal with it, but they are able to get out there and talk about it and campaign for positive change for others. I think that is consistently one of the most incredible, inspiring things that you get to do in this job. But look, I want to keep doing this job because I work day and night to deliver for people, and crucially, we've had a difficult few years economically, but now people can see the worst is behind us, and if I'm given the opportunity, I really can deliver the financial security that people want, continue cutting their taxes, making sure that when people are working hard, they get to keep more of their hard-earned money, and we now have a very clear plan to stop the boats, which will work. We can continue to bring down the numbers of legal migrants too with our new cap, building on the progress that we've made, give pensioners security and dignity in retirement with a triple lock plus. You know, that's a type of country I believe in, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity to keep doing that for everybody.
I asked you for your best moment. I'm not sure we actually got a best moment. Let's see then. What's been your worst moment?
No, Sally, sorry, I did. The best moments, as I said, is having the opportunity to talk to people who have, and which I have done many times in this job, where you've spoken to people who themselves have faced some tragedy in their lives, but in spite of that, actually decide to go out there and campaign for positive change so that doesn't happen to other people, or they can raise awareness of an issue. I think that is very inspiring, and those are the best moments in this job, is meeting people like that and actually being humbled. Well, look, this is a difficult job. Of course it's a difficult job, and when I can't make as much progress as I would like on the things that matter to me and matter to the country, of course that's disappointing, as we talked about on the NHS waiting list, for example, particularly coming from an NHS family as I do. I was just at a pharmacy yesterday talking about growing up in my mum's pharmacy, working with her and helping her and working to support her patients. So that has been disappointing not to have been able to make more progress on NHS waiting lists in spite of the record funding we're putting in. But we are now making progress. And the thing I'd say to people is you have to remember that because of the pandemic, we had 6 million referrals that otherwise would have taken place that didn't. 6 million. And that's just a large number of people that are understandably coming back into the system, and it's going to take some time to work through that. So even though the NHS is doing an extraordinary amount, more than it's ever done in its history, backed by record funding, it is just going to take time to work through those 6 million missed referrals that we're now getting through. But as I said, you know, not made as much progress as we'd like, but the waiting lists are now on a downward trajectory over the past several months, down by about 150,000 from the peak. So you can see that we're heading in the right direction now.
You appear to be in a supermarket this morning, Mr. Sunak. I know you've been meeting all sorts of people, haven't you, on the campaign trail. One of the things that they talk to you a lot about as well is the cost of living crisis. I wonder how much a loaf of bread is. Do you know how much they cost there?
I do, actually. It's £1.35 for the best-selling Tiger Bloomer that Morrison's here sell. And when I was welcoming Morrison's to Downing Street for our Farm to Fork Summit, where we were focused on food security, we were talking about that loaf. It's been great to help the team here stack some of their shelves from one of their freshly baked bits of bread. You talk about cost of living, and that's why it's so important that we continue to cut people's taxes.
Do you know how much that's gone up?
We've had a very difficult time with inflation, and that's why my priority was to bring it down, and that's why cutting taxes is important. And that's at this election. No one struggles with the cost of living.
I just wonder in the last 5 years, Mr. Sunak. Sorry to interrupt, because a lot of people will worry about the cost of living. They find their supermarket shopping goes up every week, and I wonder over the last 5 years how much that loaf of bread has gone up by.
No, I don't have that figure to hand, but what I can tell you is I want to make those challenges easier by cutting people's taxes so they have more money in their bank account at the end of every month, and that's a choice for people at this election. You talk about inflation and prices going up. Well, when I became Prime Minister, inflation was 11%. It's now 2%, so that's my track record on bringing down inflation and easing those pressures. We're already cutting taxes for everyone in work this year by on average £900, and I want to go further. So for anyone who's struggling with a cost of living, what I want to do is give you more financial security, reward your hard work by making sure that we cut your taxes. You'll have more money in your bank account at the end of every month to spend on what you want to and support your family, and that's a choice at this election, because if Labour are in power, your taxes are going to go up. So all of those challenges are just going to be worse, and that is why I want people to think very hard over the next couple of days, is if they want more money in their bank accounts, in their pockets at the end of every month when they're working so hard, then it's the Conservatives and only the Conservatives that are going to deliver that for you.
It's actually gone up by 28%, according to the ONS. So, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me.